Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Just Listen to Yourself with Kira Davis. I am your host, of course, the aforementioned Kira Davis, and this is the podcast where I ask you to just listen to some of the things you're saying out loud, take some of your favorite talking points about issues of the day and draw them all the way out to their logical conclusion. Because I genuinely believe that when we actually take the time to hear some of the things that we're saying, that it can change our minds a bit. We don't take the time to draw those ideas out all the way to their end. So it's kind of a thought exercise. I love debate and I love information. And so this podcast is kind of a passion project of mine. But I am so surprised by the amount of people who approach me to say that they're listening and they love it. I mean, generally, people I know and friends and family, they don't pay a whole lot of attention to the stuff I do. You know, you do it so much. They're not in wanting to be inundated with political thoughts and debates all the time. Like, you know, most of the people around me, just regular people that don't have their head in politics all day long, and they don't care to, which is a good thing. But, so generally, you know, people know what I do, but they don't participate in it very much. But this podcast, everywhere I go, somebody is stopping me to say, I've listened to your podcast and I love it. Not everyone's agreeing with the stuff I'm saying, but the comments I'm getting are that people are thinking about what I'm saying, and they're thinking about their own positions more, and they're maybe refining some of their own beliefs and arguments, which I would call a success, because you don't need to agree with me. At the end of this podcast, I don't need you to come out on the other side thinking how I think. I want to persuade you, and that's what I'm trying to do, but look, it's fine. Like, we can still have a beer together if I don't persuade you. But I do think that political discourse and debate becomes more tenable and easier if we are all more confident in our positions, because then you don't have to feel alarmed when someone doesn't agree with you, or you don't have to feel tense about it, because you've thought very deeply about your position and you know why you believe it. And so if somebody else doesn't believe it, well, that's no skin off your back. So I definitely think that it's always a good exercise to draw these ideas all the way out. Last week, we talked about gender equality. Gender equality. I got a lot of comments from that one. In fact, I have a response that I'm actually going to make a response. A reader wrote me a letter about it. She kind of disagreed with me. And it was a wonderful, well thought out argument presented with information, and it was glorious. So I asked her permission if I could use it on air and do an on air response. I'm going to do that. That'll be dropping later this week. But today, I've kind of switched gears. I was going to talk about climate change. I have a climate change episode coming up. I want to talk about the differences between people on the right and people on the left on this climate change issue, and maybe dispel some of the misinformation or beliefs about both sides and what's really happening there. But I've put that aside. I think I'll wait till next week, because something happened this week that really caught my eye, and I've been talking about it a lot today as I record this podcast. And it was that Ellen DeGeneres, the comedian, was getting a little blowback online for being seen at a Dallas Cowboys game with George W. Bush and Laura Bush, and they were having a good time together. Well, people didn't like that they were having a good time together. People had to write, people had to complain, and she ended up having to do a 2-minute monologue on her show about how it's okay to be friends with people who don't think like you. She has lots of friends who don't think like her, and she's okay with that. And when she says be kind to people, she means be kind to all people, not just the people who think like you. And of course, I think she's right. You all know that. But it got me to thinking about tolerance. So today I want to talk about tolerance. I want to talk about why. And this probably can go with the free speech argument. But I want to talk to you about why it is important to A, understand what tolerance means, and B, to practice it, and why true tolerance is actually a very difficult exercise. So let's start by reading the definition of tolerance, shall we? Here's the dictionary definition of tolerance. There are 3. The ability or willingness to tolerate something, in particular, the existence of opinions or behavior that one does not necessarily agree with. 2, the capacity to endure continued subjection to something, especially a drug, transplant, antigen, or environmental conditions without adverse reaction. Or 3, an allowable amount of variation of a specified quantity, especially in the dimensions of a machine or a part. Every single one of these definitions is about accepting the external circumstances, being able to tolerate unpleasant circumstances. There's nothing that indicates pleasantry or comfort or safety in any of these definitions. Somehow, the word tolerance has come to be synonymous with progressiveness. So I hear progressives say all the time, and I'm sorry to keep using the word progressive. I hate using right and left because I just think it's all more nuanced than that. But I'll use the terms I have available to me. But progressive I think is different than liberal, because progressive ideology seems like a far left, like alt left position these days, and it's just kind of insane. So that's what I mean when I say progressive. I'm not necessarily talking to you people who are left of center or would consider yourselves liberal, but there's a certain group of people who are just absolutely rabidly progressive, and they make it difficult to have these conversations. But their definition of tolerance seems to have been accepted by general society these days. And tolerance seems to be synonymous with progressive open-mindedness, which of course I think is closed-mindedness. And I'm about to go on to tell you why. This whole episode's going to be why I think that, and why tolerance actually should not be easy for you. Tolerance actually should not make you feel good. We're looking at all these definitions, the 3 different definitions of the noun tolerance, and there's not nary a mention of comfort, peace, safety, enjoyability, nothing. Tolerance isn't about accepting things that are like you. I can't stand it. I hate the term, I will not tolerate hate. I do not tolerate hate. I do not tolerate the intolerant. People on the progressive left say this all the time, as if it meant something. Well, I want you to draw that out all the way to its logical conclusion. So if you don't, this would be a short podcast, because really, you can't, if you don't tolerate the intolerant, then you are intolerant. Do you understand? So even just semantically speaking, that don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. But let's draw it out a little further. Well, Kira, I don't tolerate hate. If there's some couple in I don't know, the Midwest and Texas, wherever you think all the dumb conservative rednecks live, and they don't believe in gay marriage and they don't want to celebrate gay marriage, I'm not going to tolerate that. I shouldn't have to tolerate that. I'm sorry, but you do. I'm so sorry. You actually do have to. If you want to be tolerant, if you want to be intolerant, then own that. Say that. Say, I do have boundaries. There are people I won't tolerate. There are people I don't like. There are people I think it's okay to hate. Own that. Don't lie to yourself and everyone else and say you're tolerant, but you don't want to be tolerant to this couple in Nebraska who doesn't believe in gay marriage. Well, Kira, why should I tolerate them? That's an intolerant position. It's hateful. It's rude. It's homophobic. Kira, certainly you don't promote these things. You don't value those things. No, I absolutely do not. I don't value those things. Even if I might share some views with them, I still wouldn't value the idea of, turning my back on someone because they were gay, or thinking someone's disgusting because they voted Democrat or something like that. I would never do that. But I still have to tolerate their views, and so do you. Because that's what tolerance is. Tolerance isn't going to the cocktail party on Capitol Hill with all your liberal friends. You got your cute heels on, cute dress. Maybe you're looking good in your suit and tie. And you go to this party where everyone is from the same social strata. Everyone thinks the same things about politics. Everyone says the same things about entertainment. Everyone laughs about, Trump voters and big bad orange man. And then you talk about, I don't know, how much you love black people or something. That's not tolerance. You know, it costs, tolerance has to cost you something. Do you understand? It's the same idea with free speech. Everyone, hate speech is not free speech. I read that the other day. What the hell? It's not. Yes, absolutely. In fact, there is a solid case to be made that hate speech is the freest speech and the only form of free speech, because you don't need laws to protect speech you like. Everybody likes it when people are nice. Everybody likes it when people say, hey, I love black people. Y'all black people are the best. It's the greatest race. It's you're smart. You're the best athletes. You're the best looking racial group. Like, we love it when people talk like that, but we don't love it when people tell us we're nothing, we're dirt. I don't love that. But if you can't be free to say stupid things, then you're not really free. And that it's the same thing with tolerance. True tolerance costs you. There's a measure of grace to tolerance. There's a measure of mercy to tolerance. It costs you something. It costs you some tension, you know, some feelings. Maybe your feelings get hurt. Some pride. Maybe you got to reach out when you feel someone should be reaching out to you. It costs you. True tolerance looks at the person that you think you could never be friends with, that you could never that you could never agree with. You look at someone that you say you would never share a meal with, and it takes looking at this person and saying, I think everything you think is the worst and super dumb, but I also think you have the right to say it. And I also think you have the right to be here in this country. I also think you're a fellow citizen just like me. And how about this, guys? What if we did this? What if every time we crossed paths with an intolerant person, someone we perceive as intolerant, because I think we need to also change our notions of what we think is intolerant. Disagreeing with someone isn't intolerance, y'all. That's not intolerance. Us having different opinions on how we rescue homeless people, or how we help poor people, or how we distribute our public education system across the United States. Having different opinions about those things doesn't make you intolerant. Those are just opinions. Intolerance is when you refuse to engage with someone based on who they are, what they think, or what they look like. Intolerance is a wall. It's a boundary. What if every time you came across somebody who was truly intolerant, not just disagreeing with you, but truly intolerant, what if you showed them what tolerance looks like? What if you chose not to treat that person the way they deserve to be treated? Another word for that is grace. And you hear me talk about it all the time. It's been such a huge factor in my life, grace. In fact, there's a part of me that feels like it is my calling to talk about grace, not because I find grace easy, but because I find grace difficult. I am a bitter person. I am a judgmental person. I am an opinionated person. I'm an angry person. Let me just take it to church for a second here. Woo. If I didn't know Jesus, y'all, if I did not meet Jesus, I don't even think I'd be standing here. I'd be dead. I would have had some confrontation in my life that would have led to my death. I was on that path. So I know what it's like to embrace those feelings and to give in to those feelings. But that's easy. And when has anything good ever been easy? It takes nothing to hate people. It costs you nothing. In fact, you'll be freaking celebrated for hating people in this day and age. Some Hollywood actress stands up at a GLAAD award ceremony and says, I hate Christians who hate gay people. I hate people who voted for Trump must be out of their minds. They must be Nazis. They must walk around with copies of Mein Kampf in their back pocket. She'll be slathered all over the cover of every magazine that still exists, and she'll be online, and people will be sending her millions and millions of likes and retweets and messages of support. What a brave human being. How brave. That is not brave. That costs that person nothing. You know what would really be brave? For that same actress to stand up at that same meeting and say, I don't understand these people who don't think like us, but they're our brothers and sisters. And because we're an inclusive community, we're going to include them. How transformational would that be? How radical would that be? What if the next time you were in an environment where you felt compelled to condemn the intolerant, what if you flipped that script and accepted the intolerant and welcomed the intolerant, or at least tolerated the intolerant? Lead. Be a leader. Was it brave for Ellen to stand up there and say, hey, I'm friends with George Bush. I'm friends with all kinds of people that aren't like me? Not really. I mean, it didn't cost her anything, right? She's Ellen. She's already got her finances set up. Like, she's pretty much set for life. She's got a certain amount of, how do I say, insulation. So she's not going to pay a price necessarily, professionally speaking, for saying something like that. But I'm glad she said it. And I don't know if she really does live her life like that. Perhaps she feels that she does have a lot of friends who think differently from her, but there might be people who work for her that feel like they can't speak publicly about their political beliefs on set. In fact, I can say that I have known people who have worked on her show in the past. They don't work there anymore, so don't go digging them up. But I have known people who have worked for their show who were conservatives and who said, yes, no, we're very silent on set. People have political discussions every day, but we cannot freely participate in them because there will be blowback for simply having a different point of view. I don't know if Ellen, and that doesn't mean that Ellen endorses that at all. I'm just saying that there are all kinds of people in this world who have to deal with that environment every single day. And it looks like Ellen is just figuring out what it's like to be on that side of the fence. But I live, I'm a non-progressive. I'm right of center, conservative, whatever label you want to slap on me that's not a liberal Democrat or progressive. If I am not raging daily about big bad orange man and how we're all going to die tomorrow, then I'm considered a right-wing nut job. I am not free, especially being black. This is the other thing that gets me. This is the other thing that gets me is wherever I go, I live in the land of liberals. It's a blue state, true blue. Wherever I go, progressives just assume they know what I'm thinking about politics. They feel so free. It's mostly white people. Feel so free to just and not just free. This is what's weird. Maybe it's just my state. I don't know what it's like where you live. It could just be the etiquette here or the culture here. It's not just that they feel free. They feel compelled. I cannot tell you how many white people, white liberals, feel compelled to speak to me about politics upon just meeting them, like at a party or at an interview or anywhere. I mean, it's amazing how quickly they'll launch into, don't you just hate Donald Trump? Don't you just wish that black people had more power and were more better off? I'm with you, sister. I'm a good liberal. And this is how you know, because I'm going to tell you what my politics are right from the top. I don't know anything about you. I haven't asked you one personal question. I haven't asked you your opinion on this issue. But, you're black and I'm white, so I already know what you think. Oh, yeah, those people are out there. I know some of you people are nodding. My black brothers and sisters out there right now listening to this are nodding their heads. Yep. Been there every day of my life. That is every day of my life. I don't know what it is. It's the craziest thing. Jordan Peele made a whole movie about it, y'all. It's called Get Out. It ain't about white conservatives. It's about white liberals. It's so weird. It's this weird idea of what tolerance is. I want to tolerate you, but only if you think like me. And by the way, I'm not even going to assume that you're an individual. I'm just going to look at the color of your skin and assume that you think like me because I'm right. Jesus Christ came to die for all of us. I hate to tell you guys this because I know it's not popular to say these days, but it's important that you know that there's going to be a lot of people in heaven that are going to shock you. It's going to be a lot of people not in heaven that's going to shock you. Jesus Christ came for everybody. He died for the murderer. That girl, that lady, Amber Geiger, that white lady that murdered that young black man in his own apartment, the white cop. And I know y'all saw what his brother did. The victim's brother, a young man named Brent Jean, stood up and offered Amber Geiger forgiveness. And the whole world went nuts. Everybody said, oh my God, I could never do that. What about justice? What about this? Yeah, there's room for all that. But in that moment, that grace was the justice. Do you understand? He did what every Christian is called to do. It shouldn't surprise any Christian that he did that. I don't even understand. When I hear Christians say, I could never have done that. What are you talking about? Are you a Christian? That is literally like Christianity 101. We must forgive because he first forgave us. You can't forgive. You can't forgive that. You couldn't. Jesus can. God can. Your higher power can. Your creator can. You can only do it if you are seeking help from outside of yourself to do it. So yes, it's true. You can't. You couldn't. But I think it's weird when I hear Christians say, oh, I couldn't or wouldn't. What are you talking about? That shouldn't have looked weird to us. It was beautiful, a wonderful example, and we definitely should share that example. But it shouldn't be weird. Every Christian should be like, yeah, that's pretty much what we're called to do. Do you think that forgiving people is easy? Do you think that Jesus said only forgive the people that it's easiest for you to forgive? Only forgive the people who only hurt you a little? There's no risk in that. It costs you nothing. Forgiveness isn't for non-offensive things. Forgiveness is for the things that we believe we could never get over ourselves. Forgiveness is grace. Again, it is making the decision to treat someone, not to treat someone the way they deserve to be treated. So guess what? If Amber Geiger decides to come to God and say, I am yours and I repent and I am a new creation, you're going to see her in heaven. How dare you hold a grudge against her? You know what I mean? That's holding a grudge against the Lord right there. Forgiveness, grace, mercy, tolerance. These are difficult things, people. They're not easy. If you think it's easy to be those things, you're doing it wrong. It hurts. It hurts to extend grace and be friendly to someone who told you that you cannot be their friend because of how you look. That hurts. It hurt. It hurt. It cut me to the quick to have to extend grace towards my neighbor who told my son that he could not play with their daughter because we're black and they're white. They were Romanian, so I always give them a little leeway. Romanians are. If any of y'all are Romanian out there, you know what I'm saying. You guys are super racist, but it hurt to know. He said, these kids can't play together. 7 years old, 8 years old. What do they know? They're outside playing in the driveway. Dad comes out. We can't do this anymore. Don't you think I wanted to blow up his entire house? Do you think my first reaction was to embrace him? No, honey. My first reaction was to throw a brick through his window, get my husband to punch him out when he came to see what the problem was, and then set fire to his car. That was literally my plan. But God, I'll tell you what my husband told me when I told him, this is the plan we're executing. In a rage. I mean, just in a mama bear outraged rage. This is what we're doing, honey. This is the wrath we are going to rain down on this neighbor. And my husband, my tolerant husband, said, no, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to treat them with the same grace that God extends to us. Ugh. I didn't want to do it. I did it. I did do it, but I did not do it with, any joy. Trust me. I didn't know what it looked like. And I can remember praying, what am I supposed to do, God? You think I'm going to have these people in my house, invite them over for dinner? What does that look like? And I just felt God telling me, maybe it just looks like you saying hi when you walk by in the street. Maybe it just looks like you speaking to each other when you see each other at the mailbox. Maybe it just looks like you waving to them when you see them, instead of treating them like enemies, treating them like the enemies they were trying to treat you as. What if you treated them as your neighbors? So that's what I did. And for the first couple weeks, neither one of the parents would speak back to me. I think there was an element of shame, if you ask me. but maybe I'm just reading that into it. But they wouldn't speak back. And I would say, how are you? Pass me the street. Hi. Nice day out. Nice weather. About 2 or 3 weeks passed by. And then suddenly one day the dad spoke back. Oh, I'm fine. Thank you for asking. Yes, it's nice weather we're having. I see you got a lot of mail there. Like, just pleasantries, just neighborhood pleasantries. And maybe a month or two after that, I noticed, oh, look at that. The kids are playing outside together. No one's saying anything. So just kind of left it alone, and the kids were able to go back to being friends, and it wasn't a big deal. And a year later, the mom finally spoke to me. It took her a year. She was hard, man. She was hard-headed, but I smiled at her, talked to her every time I saw her, even though in my head I was judging her and flinging insults at her. And generally being unforgiving on the inside because I didn't feel like forgiving her, I still executed the mechanics of forgiveness. And then eventually it became real for me. I really did forgive her. And now, we're not friends, but we see each other around town all the time. We talk, we chat about the kids. The kids are getting older, they're going off to college. And so we chat about that and what those challenges are. And it didn't escalate. What was going to happen if I had been allowed to go throw that brick through their window? We live right next door to each other. Our children are friends. What was that going to do if I chose to meet ugliness with ugliness? I thank God for my husband that day. I do. I tell this story all the time, and I don't think he still really understands the impact that moment had on me, but it really changed me in a lot of ways. And it was a very difficult lesson in what grace means, because you can take a lot personally, but when someone comes for your kids, that's a whole different story. And I don't have, as I said earlier, I don't have a lot of patience, and I don't have a lot of my own grace to give. So yeah, I was pretty primed to start a war, but thank God for the Prince of Peace, and I'm just asking you all to extend that. If you think that it's easy, that it feels good to tolerate the intolerant, if you think that it makes you feel better about yourself and makes you feel like a good person and gives you a little halo that you walk around with all day in this beautiful sense of peace, then you've never done it. Then you don't really know what it means, because tolerance costs you something. It costs you your pride, your right to be offended, your right to retribution. It costs you the joy of just telling some people off. I fantasize about telling people off. Oh, again, you know what? Again, if I didn't know Jesus, everybody I met would get a piece of my mind every single day. I got so much. You guys don't even know. I have so much running through my head on any given day. And I have no self-control. If I think it comes out of my mouth. So Jesus is the only thing that's standing between me and a jail cell, to be quite honest. So when people say, I only tell you this because a lot of people, I talk about grace a lot. And I tell that story about my neighbors a lot because it was a life-changing moment for me. My paradigm shifted in that moment. But people always say to me, I wish I could be like you. I wish I could. You just are such a peaceful person, and no, I'm not. No, that's the thing. I know that it looks like that on the outside, but you're not in my mind. You're hearing me judge people and talk about people and wish bad things on people. And my first reaction is always anger. My first reaction is always hurt and fear. I carry trauma from my childhood just like you do. We all do have something. I'm not equipped with anything. I am equipped with the extraordinary, but it's nothing that's not available to you as well. So the next time you're looking around at someone that you are pretty sure you can't be friends with, could never be friends with, let alone be friendly to, I would like to challenge you to be friendly to that person. I would like to challenge you to experience what true tolerance is and see how it changes you. That's the other thing. We're always worrying about how we can change the other person. How can we change their mind? I don't even want to talk to this person because I'm not even going to change their mind. It is not your job to change every person's mind around you. Not in the least. We have too many people these days who feel like it is literally their job to stand up in public and publicly confront whatever celebrity, public figure, news, opinion journalist they see that disagrees with them. I've done, I don't know if you guys know who Tomi Lahren is, but she's a big like Fox News contributor, the little blonde girl. I was on her show recently, and in the break, she was telling me how, you know, she, like when she goes places, she was just out with her parents one day and someone threw water at her and yelled at her in the middle of this restaurant. She wasn't doing anything. She was sitting there with her parents having a lovely lunch. It is not your job to stand in front of Tomi Lahren in a public place and lecture her. You are not Captain Righteous. You can actually notice that that person is there and comment about how you hate all of her opinions and then simply go on with your day. But we have raised an entire generation of people who see that as righteousness, who see that as activism, who see that as justice. That's not justice. You guys don't even really want to know what justice really looks like. When God delivers his final justice to, I better stop. I'm going to get canceled. Keep taking it to church. Listen, I don't care. Let me preach. When God delivers his final justice to us, it is not going to look anything like you think it's supposed to look. It's not, because his justice is full of grace and mercy and discipline and wrath. All those things mixed together. We're not capable of that type of justice. That's why we're always separating justice as if it's different. Like God's justice is different from social justice or some bullshit like that. Sorry, I'm not supposed to be swearing. I've had some complaints from some pastors. My bad. But that's dangerous. There's only one justice. It's easy to find out what it's like. You know, there's a whole book about it and you can go look at it, but it tells us a lot of uncomfortable things about ourselves. That's a thing. When I read this quote, I don't know who it was from, G.K. Chesterton, about how there is a fine line between love and hate, and that dividing line goes straight through the heart of every human being. That means that you, just like, yes, Amber Geiger, who murdered a young man in his home, just like that homeless guy, just like that racist redneck, just like that intolerant neighbor that you have, that same dividing line of love and hate runs through their heart and yours. That means you are evil too. You have evil in you. I don't mean to suggest that your whole being is evil, but we have all hurt someone who didn't deserve to be hurt. And we have all insulted someone who didn't deserve to be insulted. And we have all been hard-hearted where we should have softened our hearts. We have stolen from somebody in some way. We have murdered people with our tongues. We have rejected people who needed us the most. We've been selfish. We've been judgmental. All those things. Gossipy, self-righteous, prideful, gluttonous, envious. You think you get away with that just because you're not a redneck living in the Appalachian Mountains? Get a grip. You're no different than George Bush or Ellen DeGeneres or anyone. We're all human beings and we all have fallen short from the glory of God. We all have sinned. So the first step in being tolerant is understanding that you are not worthy of tolerance either. That's the first step. And then we move on to grace. And hey, how about this? While you're extending, if you get to this point, and I hope you do, while you're extending that very difficult grace to the person who definitely doesn't deserve it, maybe think about extending some to yourself. I don't have any advice on how to do that. I'm the hardest person on myself, probably like most of you. I think we all are pretty hard on ourselves. There are a few of you float through life thinking you've done no wrong. And frankly, I'm a bit envious of that attitude. But we all struggle with forgiving ourselves and extending ourselves a little grace and understanding that we can't meet this standard of perfection we've placed on ourselves. We're not going to say and think all the right things all the time, whatever that means. You know, we're not going to be the best people all the time. but we can be worthy people. We can be people that are worthy of each other's tolerance. I believe that no matter what, listen, I told you the story of my neighbors. I've met all kinds of crazy people in this country and in Canada where I grew up, which is another story about racism and where it lives and what it looks like and how it affects you. I got a story. I'll share it with y'all one day, the whole thing instead of just pieces. But I just say all this to say I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be hated by somebody for no other reason than how you look. And I know what it's like to look back at that person in the eye and hope that they die right there on the spot. The only reason I'm not in jail right now is there are certain times when I just didn't have a weapon of destruction in my hand. Simply the grace of God. So let's work on being those tolerant people and extending it to the people that we know definitely don't deserve it. And it'll change you. Stop worrying about how you can change other people. You can't change anybody. It's not even your job to change anyone. You hear me? You can persuade and you can argue and debate. You can have a little podcast like me, but it's not your job to change how people think or to change their lives or to fix their lives. That's not your job. Your job is simply to extend the same grace to all the people around you that was first extended to you. All right, everybody, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to our home at the FCB Radio Network, # Team First Class. I want to remind you guys to head over to my Twitter page. Follow me over there at realkiradavis, and you can type in at realkiradavis into Facebook, and it'll take you right to my Facebook page as well. Check out the other shows we have on the FCB Radio Network. We've got some fun stuff in there. There's something for everyone in there, really. We're an eclectic group, and that's why I love this network. Thank you so much for all the support, and if you don't mind, if you're still listening, would you just head over to iTunes real quick or whatever you're listening to this on and leave us a good review, subscribe so you never miss an episode, and give us a rating. Those things help very much. Help us out. Thank you. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.